Hello, everyone. Welcome to Dapr Community Call number 100. We have a special edition today, and we're here with all of the community managers. I'm Mark Duiker. We have Cecil here, and also Anu.
Hi everyone.
And yeah, we have a bit of a special program for you today because we're going to talk about Dapr, the past, present, and future with some of the people who are like the co-creators and maintainers and steering committee members. So we'll do that in a few minutes. Then we have a couple of announcements that we like to do about the project and some future events that we're going to host. There'll be like a little quiz to test your knowledge about Dapr, and you'll probably learn a thing or two about that as well. And if time is there, then we should hide this. Then we do have a show and tell section as usual. All right. So for now, let's welcome our guests. So we have Mark, we have Yaron here, we have Paul, and we have Hal. Hello, everyone. And I will remove this for now. Here we go. All right, so yeah, thank you all for joining us and then taking the time to talk about Dapr, how it all started, what's happening at this moment, and what's the future of Dapr going to be. So we prepared a couple of questions right now, and all of the community managers will take some turns in asking these questions. And we're very curious about this. So Cecil, do you want to start with the first question?
Yeah, sure. I'd love to kick it off. So first question, we're just going to ask the question to everyone, and whoever decides to jump in first, feel free to go ahead and answer. But first question is, can you tell me a bit about how Dapr first started? Like, how did the idea form? How did you all decide, hey, well, this is something that we want to build, and obviously, take it to where it is today?
Yeah, I can start. I think everyone here were involved with Dapr very early on. Dapr originated at Microsoft at the Azure Incubations team, which was a team that really took on these initiatives to create advanced technologies and open source stack that could be used to better lives of developers and ops team in a way that's not directly related to a product team. And that's really where Dapr came up, and it came based on a research assignment that we had to basically explore gaps for cloud native developers. And so we went and we talked to many cloud native developers, users of Microsoft technologies and others who weren't, and we really came up with a list of distributed systems challenges that we thought, hey, wouldn't it be great if we created a set of APIs that just encapsulate all of that boilerplate code and pain into a box that you can use and take with you and make your applications more secure, reliable, and portable. And this is how Dapr came to be. And then Dapr eventually, grew as a CNCF project, got multi-vendor adoption, grew inside of Microsoft, and Paul and Hal can definitely speak to that. But that's my view of how it started.
Mark, you're muted. I see you talking, but we can't hear you.
When you press his unmute button. Yes, so my point of view is I was also kind of working at Microsoft at the time and working a lot of product teams, and we'd seen a lot of product teams kind of build similar technologies in terms of they were all building the same distributed systems patterns, having to do event-driven architectures, service discovery, service invocation, making sure that they stored secrets successfully, things like this. And so it was that sort of team struggling with inside building their own distributed applications on kind of Azure at the time. So it kind of prompted like there must be a way of doing this in an open source way where we can have anyone who builds whatever language they want to have on different platforms. And at that time as well, Kubernetes was starting to rise up as a particular place to run these technologies. And so that was one target, but it wasn't just that. It was like, can you run a piece of code on a set of VMs even? So it was really much about empowering developers who were building distributed applications on, whatever the platform they were kind of deciding to build their service on, and kind of help them. And certainly I'd been working on, sort of Azure services, and saw, these different repeating patterns across them. And so that was why, how do we codify this and provide it? I think the key was as well that, here's an API that you can use over HTTP. It wasn't just a library, and the whole sidecar model.
Yeah, just a little more perspective. So when I signed on, I was actually kind of in a different organization in Microsoft. I was working on tools and frameworks, all to do with the cloud and Azure. So Mark and Yaron were my partners at the time. And I remember seeing Dapr for the first time, and just how easy it was to send messages with PubSub, how to do state management, how to do service discovery. I'm like, wow, this is really cool. And then they showed me that just with the SDK and the sidecar, I could add it to any app. Because I was used to in the past, we had some platforms with these features, but you had to really adopt a whole new universe, a whole new way of life with like new base classes, new programming models, new app models, where Dapr was just really slim and I could bring it into existing apps. At the time I was trying, let's say, ASP.NET or JavaScript, and I could just bring it right in. So that was like part one that got me excited. And then part two, I saw the paper and the blog post that was done by Alibaba staff engineers. That's public, we can all see it. And they just talked about why they chose Dapr, and that got me really, really excited to see like a FAS and a cloud company that I really respect taking a bet on it. So after that, I kind of had the put me in coach kind of mentality. I asked Mark and Yaron and the management team to like let me be a part of it, and that's when I actually switched teams to come be a part of it.
Cool. Anything to add, Al?
Yeah, I was to say, I also joined, or I worked on Dapr when it was still in incubations as well in the pre 1.0 days, and I actually joined Microsoft to work on Dapr because at the time an old coworker was the manager of the developer team in incubations, and he called me up one day talking about a cool thing he was working on, and it sounded interesting, and so there was that jump ship, joined Microsoft, and yeah, and just had a good time. It's a really cool product. Happy I switched over, and it was fun to see it on the I got there kind of in the stage of going from the ideation phase to the okay, now how can we make this trusted in production phase. So a lot of the making things reliable and everything started it. So it was cool to be there in kind of some of the earlier phases.
Cool, very nice. So that's the moment. It was like February 2021, and then Dapr 1.0 was released. What was the initial set of APIs that was released as part of that? Do you remember?
Yeah, I think it was service invocation, PubSub, actors, and I think it was bindings. I think it was those four.
Yes, I think you're right. Yeah.
And actually, and those ones, because we saw that the service invocation was like it was key for you to do discovery and calling between services. PubSub messaging was how do you provide that abstraction layer for event-driven architectures. The actors one was interesting actually because a lot of the actors one, if you're familiar with the actors API, it was mostly a direct port from Service Fabric, which was a platform that I'd worked on for many years, and it was just one of those additions that we saw of long-term growth. It brought a sort of a bit of uniqueness into Dapr as well because it kind of combined both service invocation and state management together. Oh, and state management. Yes, I thought that's right. Yes.
So there are 5 in total. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I think those were the 5 APIs that were originally released. The bindings one as well was inspired, I think, from the function side, wasn't that, Yaron?
Yes. Yeah, we actually called it bindings, and I remember the functions team was asking us to switch the name to something else, just not to create confusion. I totally understand that. Yes, the bindings are, for those of you who don't know what bindings are, they're basically a way to get triggered based on events coming in from external systems and connecting to third-party systems and external systems. So they really bind your application in a very, very generic way to third-party integrations. And yes, it came from the functions world.
It's the highest form of flattery, Yaron.
Yeah. So when you look at them, it was like very much a combination of, okay, you need some state, you need some service discovery, you need some messaging. I personally have always been pretty excited by the functions, the actors side of things, because I always thought that was a great combination of how you put state and service invocation together. And then subsequently, of course, if you look today, we sort of built on that again with workflow. But those were the initial APIs. And what was great about it is after that happened is that the community started to add many more things to it all, and particularly add, there's a wealth of sort of components that started to be added. The components of how you provide the underlying infrastructure connection to the APIs. And so, the state management one I think is the best because, when you first released that one, there was this wave of everyone like, okay, I'm going to connect it to every database I can think of.
Cool.
Yeah. So the next question is like, what were some key moments which resulted in Dapr becoming such a successful project? Like apart from the technical side, what were the other things also?
Okay, so I'm going to start with the technical side. 1.0, definitely. The thing that signaled to most heavyweight users that Dapr is ready for production. That was the first time we signaled out that, Dapr is ready for major workloads, high-skill workloads, low latency, high throughput, cloud-native workflows, IoT workloads. Yeah, that was a major milestone for me. And then the other one was joining CNCF, for sure. And the formation of the steering committee. I don't know if many people know, but we actually had open governance in the steering committee before Dapr was donated to CNCF. And when Dapr was initially released, in the very first blog post, if you search it up, you'll see basically a statement that says, we want to donate Dapr. We, as in Microsoft at the time, Mark and I no longer work for Microsoft, but when we blog posted that, we basically said we want to contribute Dapr to a foundation, and that was a very key moment for us, in my view.
Yeah. CNCF has certainly been amazing for Dapr's contribution, and that because it's kind of given it the visibility, the credibility, and also the association with other technologies. I think one of the key things that also we did with Dapr is integrate it with other CNCF technologies across the board. You talk about cloud events, gRPC, Spiffy, open telemetry. And I think that helped really bring it into the CNCF ecosystem, and everyone saw how Dapr played very well with other open source technologies, and CNCF embraced it greatly. They also brought a kind of a unique characteristic to CNCF as well, because they're very much an infrastructure ops centric side of things, and Dapr is very much the application centric. And I think that brought a whole new kind of mindset and visibility into CNCF that they were really welcoming on. So that donation to that, and as I said, the 1.0 release, it was where it really took rocket fuel and took off at that point, and that also kickstarted other people adding, the community adding other APIs. So I think the 1.0 was also a time where certainly I think the secrets API was one of the first ones to be added by the community, and that started the contributions flow coming in enormously, because people saw that this thing was now stable and kind of being used in a lot of key. With a lot of key customers actually, and the case studies. I think there was some really good early on case studies from Zeiss and Bosch and the likes of that also really validated its use.
Nice. Like it's been really good to see like how Dapr has kind of like just continuously like evolved over time. And I know we have tons of folks, like you mentioned, that are using Dapr, and a lot of the folks are in the chat right now. And I want to kind of really quickly pop over and grab a question from one of the folks in here. And so this question, I wanted to ask this question because, this is the type of question I would probably ask too. Is Rust not a better candidate for Dapr than Go? And I actually I would love for you all to answer this in a different way. I would love to hear, how did you all choose Go? And, what are some of the benefits and rationales between like starting Dapr on that foundation?
Yep. I can take that, because we actually did look at a bunch of programming languages when we started Dapr, and so I can tell you that Gales, that no, Rust is not as good as a candidate as Go, because Dapr is a technology that integrates with other technologies, and the number of ecosystem packages out there for Go, and especially the fact that most, if not all, or the really great majority of the CNCF ecosystem is written in Go, allows Dapr to become a part of something that's bigger than itself, right? We can use Kubernetes APIs easily. We can use gRPC APIs more easily. We can use SDKs from cloud providers who have much better support for Go other than Rust. And so in terms of ecosystem support, Go is just much further along. Where Rust is really positioning itself as the ultimate programming language for embedded systems and low-level types of systems, where Go is a very much cloud-native infrastructure, network-focused programming language, and this is really Dapr's forte. So when we looked at the languages, we were like, yeah, Rust is awesome, but it's not going to serve us as well as Go.
Nice.
Yeah,
anyone else want to jump into that really quick? No? Okay. Well, for folks, if anyone else has anyone else that's watching on the live stream right now, if y'all have any questions, feel free to go ahead and drop them in the chat. We're gonna try and pull them up whenever we think it's like a good moment for us to do so. We're gonna make a quick transition now. So, like Mark talked to us about a little bit earlier. We're gonna do past, present, and future, right? So let's talk a little bit about the presence of Dapr. And one of the first questions I want to kind of jump in is, I think recently a lot of you folks were at KubeCon, right? And a lot of Dapr talks about KubeCon, a lot of energy and a lot of conversation around Dapr. What would you say is, what would you say like the user adoption and the awareness of the project has been like? Like, what do you think has been really driving that, and where do you see that kind of sitting today?
So in terms of SDK downloads, that's the only metric that we have, Dapr doesn't phone home. We don't have telemetry. We don't have any code that's going somewhere telling us, hey, I'm using Dapr. The only thing we do have is, standard web analytics that we use, like many other Linux Foundation project that sits in our documentation. And so I can give you some numbers, which are awesome. In 2023, we've been tracking 35,000 companies engaged with Dapr. Our Python SDK grew by 400% during 2023. JavaScript grew 133%. Java grew 207%, give or take. .NET grew 88%, but .NET is by far our largest user base right now. I think we have like 500,000 downloads per Dapr version. And this is in terms of end user adoption. These are the metrics we have, and they're growing pretty rapidly.
Yeah, and I mean, I would add to that as well, as having just coming back from KubeCon Europe 2 weeks ago and spent the previous 2 KubeCons of that. We actually had 10 sessions talking about Dapr at KubeCon across the AppDeveloperCon, the co-located event, and also the main event itself. And there was a distinct kind of rise in terms of the number of people coming up and talking to us about that they had used Dapr in production and using it in their solutions. And there's a whole range of end user adopters inside this now. And so it's kind of pretty exciting to hear their stories. We're getting more of the case studies published on CNCF. You can read about them there, like with HDFC and with AtBay and De facto. And we've actually got a couple more coming with those in the pipeline. So, for me, I think you hear about Dapr a lot more now at KubeCon talks, especially in relationship with other technologies that's pulled together inside with CNCF. Is being combined with sort of the use of open telemetry and Spiffy and things like that I mentioned too. So I mean, overall, and also if you look at the number of contributors as well, the number of contributors has grown, considerably over the years. I think we're about 3,200 unique contributors since its inception. And so if you look at the dev stats, the project is also now the 12th largest project that's inside CNCF in its ecosystem out of, I think there's 172 that they now count for. So, it's a huge growing ecosystem of contributors, end users, and awareness inside CNCF itself. And particularly they sort of see that value a lot. So much so that, they're very keen to have this AppDeveloperCon conference that we have now at KubeCon, where we all talk about application development inside that. And it's, in the last 2 AppDeveloperCons, we've had over 150 submissions for CFPs inside it all, covering, not only Dapr, but other technologies related to that. So it's sort of brought a whole new application developer conversation into KubeCon, into CNCF, and it's kind of very interesting to see that adoption happen.
Yeah, just to add to that, I wasn't fortunate enough to go to KubeCon this last semester, but just from where I sit, working with a lot of customers and users out there, I was really excited to see enterprise strength, I'll call it, like very highly regulated customers knock on the door, really wanting to use Dapr and trying to learn more about it. So, HDFC Bank, I'll echo that one. That's really exciting because they're multi-cloud, global, one of the biggest banks in India and also even in the world. And they want to change the world, and they wanted to change the world using Dapr as a substrate of the technology. And they saw it really adapting and connecting well to their scenarios and providing a lot more flexibility. So when I see cases like that, then it just really increases my confidence. It's really cool. And, while I work at Microsoft, I work on Azure. They were looking at Dapr for all the clouds, and I think that was even more exciting because it's bigger. It's become so much bigger than Microsoft. It's really a community asset at this point. Another cool thing, what Mark Fussell did that I'm really excited about is he did that "Are you using Dapr" post that's still on GitHub. And by the way, if you haven't submitted to that, please do. I think it helps the community. But if you just look there, I mean, there's just constant momentum. The list just keeps growing, and so that's a very visible way to me to know that the community is thriving.
It's also important for us for CNCF graduation. So please put your name there.
I will share the link as well in a second there. Yeah. Have you mentioned that also the contributions are growing, which is great, but can you also mention some names of some companies that are contributing?
Yeah, there's over, I think, 450 distinct companies which are contributing to Dapr, which is amazing, from Microsoft, Intel, Alibaba, Digrid, Dotmatics, Red Hat, VMware, HashiCorp, all driving major contributions, even pretty early on to the project. So this is awesome. And something I've been starting to see recently is actually software vendors for, for example, pub sub providers like Solace, who have their customers asking for Dapr integrations, and they go to Dapr and they contribute components. And, database providers like Hazelcast and RavenDB, who are coming to contribute components because they're getting this critical mass of users asking for it. So this is really great to see also.
Yeah, I think pouring out the Solace one's interesting. Solace is a huge event-driven kind of pub sub provider, and they had actually provided their own SDKs for their own infrastructure, and then they got huge demands from people saying, "Can you layer and create a Solace plugin, a Dapr plugin for Solace components?" And now they see a lot of their acceleration of their customers using Dapr as the connection to not only Solace but also to other kind of clouds and to that integration between the two. Don't forget NASA. It's as an end user, we love the fact that we can say that Dapr runs on the International Space Station, the ultimate edge. That was always a great case study we love. And then if you look across all the industries, like manufacturing, Zeiss, we got lots of financial companies particularly using it. We deal with a lot of financial companies who've used Dapr in all sorts of production scenarios. And also across healthcare, retail, we see it across all the industries. And so
yes, many of the names we cannot mention, but if you are working for any of these companies and you're now watching us, please put your name in the "Are you using Dapr?" That will really, really help. Some of the names we can probably mention who have publicly said that, we've got companies like Grafana, NVIDIA, and others, really big web scale tech companies who are making use of Dapr, and this is really great to see. Dapr started off really strong on the enterprise, the Fortune 2000s, and now it's making its way into web scale companies. So it kind of like did the opposite round, but I think that's a really nice adoption trend to see.
Yeah, and a lot of these companies, what we see as well, it's kind of interesting about, a lot of them have kind of realized that they've had to build a lot of back-end, their own different applications, and there's a whole platform engineering discussion with inside those. The fact that there are multiple applications being built with inside them all, and Dapr has literally emerged now as sort of the API that abstracts across many of their application deployments. We particularly see that in all these financial companies. Financial companies have kind of been the de facto. They've built a platform themselves for years and years and years. And that really kind of then has emerged now as kind of the API within their platform engineering team. So that's kind of a strong conversation we're happening with particularly financials, and increasingly now as platform engineering kind of merges into other industries as well, as how do they have a team that provides a application platform and then the APIs for that. Dapr is just like golden positioned itself inside that.
I just want to add one more thing to platform engineering, because that's really interesting. Platform engineering really started out with and is focusing on how do we provision infrastructure, how do we monitor infrastructure, but in terms of how do you interact with infrastructure, there's still a black hole there. And the platform engineers don't want the developers to act like it's the Wild West when they're connecting to their databases or message brokers. And so Dapr really comes in as this missing link in platform engineering to basically provide for, the question of how do you make sure that your developers have golden paths to interact with the very same infrastructure that you've so far been focused on provisioning and monitoring?
Great. So can you mention like what are some interesting features we can look into today regarding Dapr?
Ooh. There's two that, well, we worked on them, so of course we're proud of them, but we helped contribute. But I'm really excited about two things. I think one that was a little bit more than a year ago is the resiliency features. So that's like adding retry, circuit breaker, time to live, all those quality of service kinds of features that you've been able to do them, but they're quite a bit of work, and it mixes a lot of resiliency code with your actual domain logic or your business logic. So the exciting thing is Dapr, just by using any of the APIs, you get those resiliency features built in, and they're very configurable, say with policy, which is very DevOps friendly also. So I'm very excited about, very excited about that. I think that's one of the things that makes Dapr uniquely kind of cloud native. And the other one is workflow. I'm really excited about that, where there's a world-class workflow engine now in Dapr, which lets you write truly durable, truly resilient code. You can chain your service calls together, your microservices together, just your distributed services together, and really have those, kind of guarantees that things are going to happen or compensation logic's going to happen. You can do fan outs, you can do fan ins. And at every point, the work is kind of like journaled. So that kind of state management that you would have to have done yourself to write a very reliable app is actually built into Dapr workflow. So I'm just so excited about that. I'm excited for that to go stable, hopefully soon. And I hope everyone checks it out. And keep in mind, like, I think workflow has a lot of like loaded kind of connotations, but I think in the modern world, like it works well with the cloud too. Just thinking about, I'm chaining distributed systems, I'm doing fan outs, fan ins. You can use it in that way, and it can work at cloud scale.
Totally agree. I would also call out the outbox pattern that we added, which is a really great way to do a single transaction across a variety of pub subs and databases. And we're improving that. And that goes really well with workflow, actually, because you can fire that off from within an activity. So let's say, that you have some chaining activity, or you do like a map reduce using workflow, which is great. And you get the results of like 1,000 operations. And then you need to let some subscriber know that you've finally saved the data into the database. Then you can do that with Outbox. And that's great. And of course, yes, resiliency. I think the thing in Dapr that makes resiliency stand out when opposed to other technologies like service meshes, for example, is that unlike service meshes, Dapr extends resiliency to all of the interactions between your applications and all of the systems that they're dependent on, not just point-to-point interactions between services, which for some architects, these are actually anti-patterns, right? Like depending for point-to-point communications. But how do you make your pub sub more resilient using circuit breakers, any type of pub sub, or your database, or your configuration store, or your secret management? So resiliency really plays a holistic role inside of Dapr from that point of view.
Yeah, I mean, to me, I think one of the most interesting things that is often overlooked with Dapr is how it's just brought together what was always just little different kind of separate kind of ecosystems together. So you had like the whole, I have to build some monitoring and observability stack. I had to do a whole bunch of resiliency things. I have to do a whole bunch of security. And there were all these different libraries you had to pull in and put it all together. So as well as just a set of APIs, you get the cross-cutting concerns of observability, security, and reliability. And I think the security is often underlooked. I mean, the fact that you can have this identity for a piece of code and say, this piece of code here, has a name piece of code, and I can call it. And then as a result of that, I can do message level identity, the identity between services. I can actually make sure that only this piece of code can access these underlying services. Is very important. And you don't get that when you look at things like service meshes, because it's all at the network layer and all of these, infrastructure level technologies. But, pulling that up into security and having the end-to-end security, it just consolidates all of these features that you've had to have and build together yourself as different libraries, all with disparate languages as well. So for me, it's like it's amazing how many companies we're talking to now who are like sticking Python code into their Java applications. And you've now got to talk between your Java application and your Python app. And they're like, oh, I have to build all this stuff and things like that. And we're like, well, just stick Dapr across them all. And that's because of a bunch of, partly because of a bunch of AI and machine learning and Python they're throwing into applications. But those two teams now can have this consistent approach to these things. And so that's kind of pretty exciting, actually.
I like to say my favorite piece of code is the code that I don't have to maintain. And I love that Dapr does that for me, right? Like a lot of things that I used to have to build myself, it now kind of just takes it off my plate. And, I kind of like rely on you all to deal with that, right? And I could focus on, just building out some of the features for my application. Really quick, so we're going to jump back into the chat and let's see what folks are asking. Let's look at this one. So the actor pattern that's in Dapr right now, it's cluster based. So how come it's not scoped? Why can't we scope it to a namespace? I'm guessing that's what this question is asking.
Yes, that is prioritized for Dapr 114. Go look at our issues milestone list for 114. Hopefully that's going to come up unless we have to postpone it, but it's being designed and worked on. So yeah, that's on the immediate roadmap.
Yes. Yeah, hey, great question. That was, yes. I mean, it's actually been very important about how you segregate everything into namespaces.
Yes, and by the way, that work is also going to enable to scope workflows activities to a certain namespace.
Nice. Yes. Nice. All right, let's jump up to the next question. So this one's from Oliver. Many moons ago, there was a talk about creating different flavors of the runtime so that orgs can use a runtime which is optimized for a particular cloud vendor and or open source. Is this going to happen?
It's already happened. Maybe we didn't document it too well, but I mean, we do have images, various flavors of images, right? We have like a stable only components image. We have all components images. I don't know if we have specific AWS, Azure, Google images. Not sure, but it would be easy to add. So if that's something that you want to see, and this is coming from Ollie, he's a steering committee member, we can definitely work on adding these. That shouldn't be a problem now. I think we have the machinery in place to allow to create, a specific cloud runtime image of Dapr.
Gotcha.
Right.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I'll just add to that. I can speak to the Azure side of it. We today, it's already happening also because for Azure, with Azure networking and Azure's different characteristics, we have images also that are, optimized as binaries, like binary optimized in containers to help with our Azure Container Apps, which is a PaaS service, and also our Kubernetes service. So that's also happening today. We probably don't talk about it well enough. But that's something we do. It's still completely compatible, but it is optimized.
All right, let's go up to the next question. So Murad is asking, what do you think of WASI Core, WASI Cloud Core? So WASI being WebAssembly System Interface, I believe is what it stands for. Do you all have any thoughts or opinions about that?
Yeah, I think it's an interesting specification. Extremely early, so early, very early. I don't know what else to say to make it, that I think it's early. And it has a bunch of APIs that look pretty much like Dapr. Last KubeCon, we've been talking to some people from the WASM ecosystem. They approached us. They wanted to see if, they could actually align their spec to Dapr, which is work that we're happy to help them with. Yes, so if WASI Cloud Core becomes closer to the Dapr specification, that would be great. There is one technical limitation, and that's the fact that if we were to actually create an official spec of Dapr, it'd probably be based on our gRPC interface. But unfortunately, gRPC is not supported in WASM. So that I think is one technical limitation in the WASM world today that prevents this work from being done. But we can certainly keep our ears open to see if there's actual demand, and if there is, I'm sure we can tackle it.
Nice. All right, well, let's keep it going. Let's move on to our future section of today's community call. And why don't we just start off with what are some of the features that y'all are currently working on and some of the feature proposals for 114?
So for 1.14, we are working on improving actor reminder performance, because that's the building block. Yes, Paul loves it. I mean, everyone here on the steering committee wants that to happen. That is going to improve the lives of so many actor reminder users. It's going to improve workflows. It's going to improve other features that we have coming up that are really building on the ability to schedule, massive scale reminders in Dapr, like scheduled pub sub, right? Where you publish a message to whatever message broker you're using, and you go like, hey, only publish this message at this given point in time, even like a year from now. And so this is something we're working on. Namespacing actors is definitely another one. Namespacing the entire Dapr installation into a namespace is another thing. And yes, hot reloading of subscriptions so that you can change a Dapr subscription without restarting the sidecar is also there.
I was about to say that one is one of my favorite, because if you look at 1.13, we did this hot reloading of components so that you can change the YAML file, deploy it, and then it gets picked up for you without having to restart the sidecar. That's just one of the Dapr resource types. Subscriptions, should be next around those sort of things as a way I can just dynamically change a subscription, a new subscription. So I'm super excited about that one, because it really works well with the operations team as well, where they can now swap out this underlying connection to the infrastructure and sort of not have minimal impact on the running applications. And so it really helps in the ops world, because you have to realize that Dapr has a lot of ops capabilities in it. It really crosses that beautiful boundary between here's an API for developers and here's the infrastructure world for ops. And it's amazing how it bridges those two teams together. So we're always looking at that, and I think dynamic subscriptions is really amazing to fit in that, and we should do it with the other Dapr resources as well.
One that I'm really excited about, I think workflow already has a lot of the features we need, but there's one big feature that we're still working on, which I'll call quality. And so we're adding a ton of quality, hardening that, and that's, I think, really huge, so that it's completely ready to go, ready for those big production apps this year.
Yeah, and then there's a few small things we have to sort of just clean up go as well. I think actor TTLs is something that we got to get done. You have a timeout on those, and just always looking for. I mean, it's really, we judge entirely things on upvoting from the community. So it's always important to kind of like upvote, put your comments inside there. That's where it really drives the features around these things more than anything. And continually adding new components, I think, as well.
And you also want to mention the proposals repo. So if you want to have an idea about adding something completely new to Dapr.
Yeah, the proposals repo is a place where if you've got the way the stages go through is in order to kind of write down a decent idea and understand it, and have a good design discussion around these things before it just jumps straight inside there. I think that's what the goal of the design proposals is, or the proposals repo. So that's something that we always encourage people to go put a proposal inside there, and then it allows the community to talk about it all. I think another thing as well that's coming as well is the Dapr shared as well, and that's kind of interesting in terms of having Dapr running more than just as a sidecar. You can run it as a single instance on the machine. So that as well is kind of really good if you're in a resource constrained environment.
All right, and looking a bit more into the future, and any suggestions or ideas how Dapr will be used in a year or in 2 years? Will it be vastly different than now, or? I'm curious.
Well, what I like to see is creating more cohesion and maybe more integrations between building blocks, So for example, we've had some really great proposals for making resiliency distributed. Think that you have circuit breakers. So instead of having 5 different circuit breaker accounts for 5 different instances of an application, you can have a centralized circuit breaker account based on, keeping state in workflows or actors. So I think, using multiple Dapr building blocks to create something bigger than each individual building block, like we did for workflows, for example, would be something that I personally would like to see, because that ends up with higher level APIs, and higher level APIs are really solving major problems. And also document store. So making state management in Dapr better, something I definitely want to see. We've had this proposal or issue open for a very long time, but making sure Dapr handles SQL queries well, that you don't have to fall back to the SDK every time you want to query state. That's really important. We've definitely heard that from users. And yes, making sure Dapr plays well with document stores specifically is something that I would like to see in Dapr in the next 2 years. Sooner than that, probably.
Yeah, I think the document stores is a really key one. If you look at it, you have key value as a storage type, and then you want blob storage, document storage, and sort of general SQL as the sort of the other 4 categories that you always want to have. And if you put that together, Dapr still, the key value is amazingly powerful, but you still have. We still see today that generally people are putting in an SDK for a particular database and the whole inside their application, because Dapr doesn't have its full strength across all of the document type storage. So I think that's something that we hear about a lot from an abstraction. Then you have sort of the communication ones. You have the service invocation, the messaging, and PubSub. And then, as I said, your own point, I think the combination of APIs is crucial. Like the Outbox pattern shows us a combination between state and PubSub. It acts as I still think is kind of the unsung hero of Dapr in terms of the sense of a combined state, and it gives you this long-running durable functions thing, and then we sort of layered that into workflows itself, so we sort of combined that. And so combinations of those APIs and bringing resiliency, more things around observability as well. So yeah, there's a lot of places we can go. I'd love to see more around authorization as well. There's a whole space of where you can provide authorization APIs. You see a lot of people build their own authorization library here that reaches out. Dapr has sort of authorization with OPA and these other things today in terms of middleware, but I think you could also take that a little bit further in terms of providing authorization APIs. Certainly integrating with other. There's also been a lot of discussion. Like it's interesting. We've also had people come up to us and go, "Oh, open feature. How does that fit with Dapr?" In many ways, Dapr has this configuration API that works exactly like that and does a really good job in terms of providing sort of that sort of capability today. So I think the world of how do you look at open feature authorization and these other ones and how they relate to Dapr, so that there is an interesting place to go. I'd love to hear people's thoughts on those.
Yeah, +1. I'd also all the points you made. I think the first part that really stuck with me is we're seeing more patterns and more solutions that stitch together a number of things, and I think need to learn from everyone here. What are some of the patterns you're trying to do, and where can Dapr make you more productive, enhance that, make things work better? I think workflow is a pretty good example where if you're building a pipeline or a distributed system, it can really help you with that chaining and fan out. And I think now, I'm spending a lot of time with customers on intelligent apps and bringing AI into their apps, and it actually can really help there. If you think about it, talking to AI is very expensive, both in terms of time and in terms of money. And so to do that more reliably and to hold on to the state in the right way and to be able to resume, that stuff gets really, really important. So it's kind of like getting to the next level of what are those patterns that we need and how can we make life better. I'm super interested in that, and look forward to partnering with the community on that.
Yeah, I think I'm on the same page as a lot of people here, in the sense that it's the high level functionality that I think excites me in the way, you can build a lot with Dapr as it is today. But the ability to do things like workflows, where we are already using the building blocks in Dapr to build this higher level functionality and to build this larger function that simplifies people's lives a lot, I think is super exciting. And we're seeing that in more places now, workflow and Outbox and these more advanced patterns. And then also just continuing to take the bet on actors and improve actor reminders, maybe going to the runtime, improve some of that stuff. So you can start seeing these, significantly higher scales that, we want, and, really unblock that side of the world. And when you can have a really high scale app that also has built-in features like resiliency and those high level functionalities, I think you start getting a really powerful system there. So I'm looking forward to going down that path more as well with Dapr.
Very nice. Mark, you recently submitted a proposal for graduation for the Dapr project to CNCF. Can you share something more about that?
Yes, we're super excited that we're finally getting Dapr to graduation. In fact, we submitted a proposal at the end of last year, And graduation kind of really is the validation inside the CNCF ecosystem that the project has, matured to its greatest extent. They have a set of criteria around it all. It stems from everything from that there's a steering committee, that they've done good security. We have great engineering practices inside it all. We did recently, at the end of last year, we did another security review across Dapr. It came out golden in terms of its security footprint and its analysis. But most importantly, graduation focuses on the ecosystem and the adoption of end users inside this. And so, inside there, they go off and then interview a set of companies that are using Dapr. And it's the kind of the ultimate validation that Dapr is ready. I think we could have done graduation a year ago, but we were very conservative inside this. In many ways, we wanted to see the ecosystem grow much more, both in terms of, we mentioned the size of the Dapr project already, in terms of its number of contributors, but just its whole ecosystem growth around it all, the maintenance and the engineering principles we have inside it all, and sort of the governance.
One of the coolest things about graduating is that you get to buy Dapr hoodies from the CNCF store. I mentioned that during Dapr Day, but yes, it's important to mention that again because we all want Dapr hoodies.
Oh, so it's not just T-shirts?
Yes, it's not just T-shirts.
Quite an upgrade.
All right.
So please upvote the graduation. Please make your voice heard, and getting to graduation. And also the other thing as well that they've done now is that when you go to the KubeCon, now they only have little videos for graduated projects in the keynotes. So we're going to get Dapr into graduation phase, so we can start having the little videos of the keynotes again and get back into that. Before they used to do it with incubation, but now it's only graduation. So yes, let's get the videos back for Dapr into keynotes.
Yes, exactly. That would be great. All right. Well, we spent quite some time now talking about the past, present, and future. Thank you all a lot. This was I found it very enjoyable, Nita. I learned a lot more things about Dapr than I thought I knew a lot, but apparently not. So thank you. We're going to remove you from the screen now because we're going to move on to some announcements, and then we're going to have a little quiz where we test people's Dapr knowledge now. So thanks again, Mark, Yaron, Paul, Hal, and see you until the next community call, hopefully.
Thank you.
All right. I'm going to share my screen again. And here we go. All right. So it's time for a couple of announcements. The first one is like a big one because we are starting a Dapr Community Championship program this year. We still have to finalize it, and we're definitely going to write a dedicated blog post about this and do like a proper announcement, but we can already share a few bits with you. So one of the parts of this Community Championship program is, of course, for you to get some rewards. So we are starting with some digital badges that you can collect. One already has been out there for quite some months, this community supporter badge. I think over 250 people already claimed this one. So it's very nice to see it out in the field, but there will be more. So we will also have like badges for if you're contributing to one of the Dapr repositories. Of course, Dapr has like many different repositories, like over 30. But these are the most common used ones that has contributions, but we'll definitely make some more also for, like, for instance, the CLI one and some other more exotic ones. We also have some badges if you're doing presentations about Dapr or doing workshops, or if you're writing about Dapr. So also if you do these things, you can actually claim a Dapr badge. So you can go to this link, the holopin.io @Dapr. So that's the Dapr organization on the Holopin platform, and that's the platform we use for these digital badges. So there's more information how you can actually claim these badges. But as I mentioned, we'll do like a proper write-up in a blog post to actually announce this and be very clear how you can get these things. And in addition, there will be more to this in the Community Championship program. So more on that later. Some other announcement is, well, we already mentioned that it was like KubeCon, AppDeveloperCon 2 weeks ago. There were lots of Dapr sessions. So on our YouTube, there's now a dedicated playlist that contains all of the Dapr-related sessions that were presented at KubeCon and AppDeveloperCon. So please have a look at that. Then this year, it will be Dapr's 5th anniversary. So that will happen on October 16th, which is also a Wednesday. So that's perfect because then we can do something like this again. But then we will actually do another call for papers. It will be like a similar thing as we did for Dapr Day earlier this year in February. So watch out for that CFP. And yeah, we can make a nice online conference again.
I'm actually really excited for that one. And so for folks that are watching, if you all have suggestions and thoughts and ideas about what you'd love to see us do for the 5th year anniversary of Dapr, let us know.
Yeah.
And then we could try and put together something fun and exciting that we all could participate in.
Yeah, that's a great idea. We love your input there. That'll be super. All right, and the next community call will be in 2 weeks. There's one session now, let's say, planned in, but there's still one slot available. So if you have an idea about a session, feel free to go to GitHub and go to the issues there, the Dapr/community repo, because there's still a speaker slot available. So that's good. All right, so we have about 10 minutes left. So I think that's just enough time to actually start our quiz. So let's do this. Here we go. So I'm not sure if you know Kahoot, but we will use the Kahoot platform to
I think we lost your mic, Mark, for a second. Oh,
yeah?
You're back.
I'm back.
Okay, we can hear you now. Yep.
All right. So if you go to kahoot.it and enter this game pin, you'll enter this waiting room, or maybe you have the Kahoot app. You can scan this QR code. Can we actually enlarge this? Oh, look at this. Now it make it a bit more easy. You can use your phone. So we're gonna wait maybe half a minute for some people to enter, because there will be like a delay of me starting this this quiz and because of the streaming. So you need to take that into account. But I see some people are being added now, so that's good.
Yeah, and like you said, for folks that never used Kahoot before, like I've used it in the past for team building exercises. So
Yep.
we're not stealing any of your data. We're not doing anything crazy with it. But just want you to know, this is just like a fun space for us to all to be distributed and answer some questions together and see what happens.
Exactly. Yeah. And then the only thing you can win is like eternal fame. That's it. Because if you're the winner, you'll be highlighted here in this platform, and it's recorded on YouTube. So that's the only thing we can offer now. But yeah, if you like this, then we can maybe do something similar on at Dapr Day then to celebrate the 5th anniversary.
So Mark, can me and Anil join, or are we not like allowed to do that?
Yeah, let's not join. Let's not join. No, I see you're in there already.
I'll come out.
No.
He's asking after joining.
I'll come out. I'll get all the questions wrong.
It's totally fine. It's totally fine. Well, there were some questions in there. I mean, which I didn't know before yesterday. So yeah, even for me, there was quite some new information in there. And you have to make some guesses as well sometimes. So
sure.
Okay, let's give it another 10 seconds, and then we will start. I'll leave it open a bit longer. And by the way, thanks for joining this live stream. I see there are over 200 people watching this. That's amazing. So thanks all for being here. I think we'll keep on using StreamYard and live stream to YouTube. I think this works very well. So, but please also let us know in the comments if you like this.
I like that name in the back, Darth Dapr. We should make that a demo. That's fair.
All right. Maybe for one more. Maybe can one person join? Then we have at least 12. I'll do a countdown, and if not, then I'll just start, because we don't have a lot of time. Okay, I'll just start. All right. Okay. It was just started already. I don't have to do anything. So what was the code name of Dapr? So before Dapr was actually Dapr. So was it Actions, or was it Service Runner, or was it EDAR, or was it AppCar? Yeah, this one I didn't know, to be honest. So time is running out, people. Time is running out. You have to be very fast. It was Actions. So I learned this only yesterday. So yeah, but yeah, GitHub Actions was a bit earlier in their announcement of their Actions, so it had to be changed, unfortunately. All right.
Oh, is that the right answer? Really?
Yeah.
I thought. I swear, I didn't do that on purpose. I did not know that was the answer.
Sure. Okay, let's move on. Okay. What was the set of APIs building blocks in Dapr 1.0? So we did mention it. So was it like service invocation, state management, PubSub, service invocation, state management, PubSub, and bindings, all of that plus actors, and all of that plus actors and secrets? It's a lot of stuff to read, so yeah. Yeah, so it's service invocation, state management, PubSub, bindings, and actors. Yeah, so no, the secrets were apparently not there yet in 1.0. I did check the release notes. Okay. We still see who's on top, Cecil.
I didn't even answer the question.
Yeah, maybe there's too little time actually to answer. But okay, in what year was Dapr submitted to CNCF? So was it in 2019, 2020, 2021, or 2022?
Yeah, and I think we talked about this a little bit earlier today in today's stream. So hopefully folks were paying attention and be able to get this one.
Yeah. It's 2021. Paul mentioned he doesn't even remember. Yeah. So yeah, it's a couple of years ago. All right. Most people had this correct. All right. Nice work, Gilles. Let's go to the next question. So what are the 3 most popular Dapr APIs? So is it state management, PubSub, and bindings, state management, PubSub, service invocation, service invocation, PubSub, and bindings, or state management, PubSub, and workflow? So this question was asking the state of Dapr report last year. Oh, time's almost running out. Yeah, so it's state management, PubSub, and service invocation. Yeah, that's definitely top 3. Yeah, but workflow will be a serious competitor very soon, I think.
Yeah, I think workflow is probably one of my favorite newest APIs. Sure.
Yeah, exactly. And me too. Yeah. All right. So Darth Dapr leading. Okay. Resiliency policies were introduced in which Dapr release?
Ooh,
was that in 1.5, 1.6, 1.7, or 1.8? Yeah, I had to look this up myself. This is not really something you know by heart, right? Yeah.
I know that's one of Paul's favorite ones too.
All right. It was 1.7. Yep. All right. Let's see what did to the score. Oh, climbing back up, Cecil. Okay, well done.
Didn't want folks to think I was sleeping, you know?
Yeah. So how many state store components does Dapr have? So is it like 15 different state stores, 19, 25, or 28? I mean, obviously these are all kind of questions to just brag a bit about Dapr, right? But that's okay. Yeah, it's 28 different components, state store components. Yeah, which is a lot. Yeah. Okay, Darth Dapr is it's going strong here. Okay, great to see. All right, let's go on. How many people contributed to Dapr release 1.13? That was released in March. Is it 50, 70, 90, or 110? And be quick with your answer, because the quicker you are, the more points you score as well.
That's a good question.
Yeah, 110. Most people had that correct. Yeah, that's really cool. That more than 100 people are contributing to a release of Dapr. That's really awesome. All right. 3 more questions to go. What's the number of weekly downloads of the Dapr client NuGet package, like all versions combined? So not only 1.13 that you see here. So is it like 50K weekly downloads, 75K, 105K, or 150K? I mean, it's a big number anyway, but how big is the number?
I love how authors voting in the chat.
Oh, really?
Like,
oh, okay, right. Oh, okay. Oh, God. Yeah. So in this case, it's 105,000 weekly downloads on average for the .NET client. Okay. Oh wow. What's this? This still change. Okay, Andre, well done. Well done. Okay. How much development time is saved when Dapr is used versus not being used? So there's also a question from the state of Dapr. So is it like 30% is time savings, or 20% time savings, 15% time savings, or 10% time savings? And this was asked across, I think, 150 developers. That's the sample size. 30%. Yeah. I think it's quite typical when you see like if it's the biggest number, just vote for the biggest number, right? If that's positive, just vote for the biggest number.
Yeah,
that's pretty awesome. Did it change? Oh yeah, it did change. Whoa, well done, Andre. All right.
Wow.
Okay. 2 more questions to go. We're slightly over the hour. What's the end-to-end latency of service-to-service invocation in Dapr 113 of the 99th percentile? So this is not findable anywhere yet. So you have to take a guess. Is it 7.11 milliseconds, 5.20 milliseconds, 3.42 milliseconds, or 105 milliseconds? The latency for service-to-service invocation. Yeah, 105 milliseconds. I heard this today. It's really impressive, I think. It's really amazing. That's really super fast. Because sometimes people are often sort of concerned with, okay, I have the sidecar, but what kind of latency it introduces. So, yeah, this is an amazing number, I think.
And that's a question I get from a lot of folks, right? Is like, how much overhead does Dapr add when I attach it to an application from a performance perspective, from a latency perspective? So being able to see those numbers, I think, is definitely really encouraging.
Yeah, that's really cool. Yeah. Right. Let's go for the final question. How many users are registered on the Dapr Discord server? So round it off to the 1,000. Is it like 5,000, 6,000, 7,000, or 8,000? And of course, if you're not there on the Dapr Discord yet, please go to this link and be part of our community. It's the best place to go to get your questions answered or to help out other people. Yeah, it's 7,000 indeed. Yeah, it's slightly over 7,000, but that's the correct answer. Yeah. All right, so let's see who the winner is. Let's see if you're on the podium. Sven, okay, well done, Sven. 3rd place. Darth Dapr.
Darth Dapr.
And number 1 is Andre. Well done, Andre. I don't know who you are. Feel free to reach out to me on social media. I could probably get you some nice Dapr stickers. But thank you all very much for joining in this quiz. Let me quickly stop this. All right. I had a lot more for today, like the show and tell, but we'll do that next time. Don't worry, I will still remember all of the community contributions. Yeah, thank you all so much for being part of this. The number 100 for Dapr, the community call. No, not going to do this. I'd like to see you then in 2 weeks for the next Dapr community call. Again, we'll probably do it live streaming again to YouTube. So hope to see you again, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, everyone.